Okay, so there are a couple other things that we can begin to consider for our warped surface roof structures. Um, the the one that I want to kind of point out to you guys is a couple of ways of sort of kind of modifying a surface that you've created into something new. And so, um, what you should probably do is construct your curves to to the best of your ability on two sides, right? And you would use Loft in that case. But I've only shown you Loft usually as like a way to filter a form um, from one side to another, right? So it's sort of a gap filler. But you can use Loft in a much more interesting way. Um, so I'm going to go here to the front view and start drawing a few curves, right? So if I wanted to draw a very similar profile, I'm kind of sticking with the same profile for a while here, guys, sorry, but um, I'm going to start with a convex curve. What's that? No, I do not have it on. Thank you. Project is now on. So I'll start off with a convex curve, and I'm just eyeballing it right now. Guys, keep in mind that when you actually do this, you're probably going to set up a construction sequence. In fact, I should show you that. Let's talk about best practice. So normally when I'm creating some kind of curve, I'll set datum lines that I can operate off of. So if I draw a line here across at the roof level, I know that I can play with copying that up maybe 4 feet, and then I'll make another one 2 feet above, 6 feet above, so 2 feet above that. Okay, so I use this as a way of snapping to intersections. So if I draw a line there, draw a line here, I can, I need to draw a line between the two actually. So I'll go from there to there so that I can just copy this to the center point. Then I can shorten that up, move that back, and copy that to the center point. And then mirror it. Okay, so that's one way of setting up the line work that I'm going to use to create an actual symmetrical curve. And so that looks like this. Just go from there to there to there to there to there. Okay, so now that curve is symmetrical. The other way of doing that, and I'll just kind of go back and forth, or sorry, just go back to the original curve here, is simply draw a line that goes along the whole length of the profile you're trying to draw. I'll put it in that view there. On that curve, you can divide it into segments. And so this one, we're going to divide it into, it was 4 segments. And it creates points on that curve. From those points, you can then select the ones that you want to move up. So 4 feet for that one. Select this one. 6 feet. Okay, so that's the same thing essentially that we just did previously. So I grab my spline, I go from there. Point needs to be turned on. So going down to the bottom, I'm turning on point snap, and I go point, 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 point. Same curve. Okay, so these are things that you're going to have to do, be diligent in how you're controlling the creation of profiles, because when you're creating a drawing, it is very, very easy to see something that was just eyeballed and see how different it is between those. Okay, so anyway, I've created a convex curve. Then I can just take a few of these, so I'm going to take these two here and move them up 4. And I'm going to create another curve that has a little, that's not quite, I'll make that -2. Let me change this and move that down. Okay, not quite extreme enough. I'll grab that, grab this point, and I'll move that one down. That's better. And then, well, I'll just play with those two. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is basically just create a couple of types of roof profiles. So I'm going to start with this one. I'll start by moving this in the side view to, I'll just put it on the edge. I'll put it on the edge for now. I'm not worried about the silly parts. And then I'll take this curve and I will move it to that point for now. I'll find a midpoint later on. And then I'm going to take this one here and I'm going to copy that to the other side. Except I'm going to extend it to the very, very end. So it'll have, oh, I need to go further out. It'll have a little overhang there. I want to find the midpoint, so I'm just going to draw a line across, and then I'm going to select this and go from the base point of that to wherever this finds the midpoint of the purple line. So now that's not right in the middle. Hold on. Am I drawing a line or am I moving? Oh, I was drawing a line. Move from here to there. There we go. Okay, so what I was getting at here is that Loft is actually a more dynamic tool. You can create multiple profiles in a surface and loft them together. So I type in Loft, I select that, that, and that, and you hit enter and hit OK. So now I've essentially created a convex to concave relationship, it's almost parabolic, on the surface here of my roof. So it's going to drain in 4 locations. Okay, so this is kind of a more smooth operation than you're used to, and so, you know, if you're doing something that's rather controlled like this, you should probably be aware that once you get to the point where it's complete and you want to modify it, you can either delete the profile and go back to your original curves and modify your curves. That's best practice. However, if let's say you create the surface and then you lose your curves. So that curve's gone, that one's gone, and this one's gone, right? So if I delete that, the curves are gone. But I want to modify that surface, right? So your best bet here is to get your ISO curves and modify those. Sometimes it can be limiting. So take a look at this. If I say, actually, let me get rid of some of these other curves first. All right, so extract wireframe. Then I basically have a reconstruction, if I wanted to get rid of these. I have a reconstruction of the curves that I just had. Okay, so the other thing is, in doing that, if you turn your ISO curves off, oh, this one, oh, I still have my curves. Hold on. Okay, no curves are there. So if you turn your ISO curves off, which are the curves that split it halfway across the surface there, which only show up on a controlled surface, never mind. So it only shows up on the more controlled surface types when it only has 4 edges, I believe. But there are other nuances to it too. But show surface ISO curve is a feature, it's a property of a developable surface. So this checkbox, when you turn it off, removes that curve. Yeah, select it, and it's down here under properties. So that turns it on and off. So when I select this and I turn the ISO curves off, and then I do extract wireframe, there's no more middle curve. So that's something to be aware of, because sometimes you might want to turn your ISO curves off so that you have more datum lines across the surface. And lastly, I think if you find yourself in a position where your ISO curves just aren't going to do it for you, let me go back here. Extract wireframe. I'll delete this and delete these. I'm just modifying something here so that you can understand what needs to be done. Just playing around with the profiles a bit. Loft, there. Okay, so this is kind of a more warped surface than you might be used to, right? If I turn those ISO curves off, and I get rid of or I lose my original curves, right? This one is a lot more difficult to get back. Extract wireframe, and I'm going to just show you the difference here. If I loft just the edge curves, it creates an entirely different surface. Right? One of them is flat. Right, because it doesn't have the middle line. Exactly. So what you'll have to do is kind of make a guess at where that ISO curve really would be. In this case, it's easy. It's about halfway through. But you can actually do an intersect using another surface and then get a new line. And that looks like this. So if you go into your front view and go to cut plane, select that surface. Top view. Cut plane, go cut plane, this surface, and you just draw it about halfway across like that, and you can do intersect, and you select this line, that surface and this surface, and hit enter, and see it creates another curve for you in between. So now when I do the same thing, I'm going to loft from here to there to there. It gets much closer, almost exactly. See those two surfaces? They're pretty much exactly the same thing. Okay? So what we're doing here, and let's talk about kind of the objective for a little bit, and then I want to release you guys to explore this for a little while here tonight. We are finding ways to enclose these spaces, but using warped surfaces. So if you guys want to begin with some programming exercises where you put the interior spaces in first and understand it that way, or if you just want to work with exterior massing and try to blend the two together, that's up to you. In terms of moving forward, we're going to do a more isolated diagram for the actual building location that you choose on site. So I'll do another quick video, I think, on the diagramming process, the next step, and then you can choose either, exploring massing now or diagramming and analyzing and then doing massing. What questions do you have right now? Okay, so I don't need you to explore that one. You've all done Loft before. We'll move on, but I wanted to show you some of those other ways of recovering your information, because that's one of the things that I think I get the most questions about, is what happens when things go wrong.